I'm Gazzy. Nice to meet you guys.
Do it. Get the hell out if you're not.
Yep. That's the attitude, and you need that.
Can we just go back and redo this?
It sucks, right? So it's like, I'm gonna pay for someone to do that for me.
Right. Proximity is power.
I'm not thinking what's going out. I'm right away thinking, what am I gaining from this investment?
I've gotten this spam call 1,000 times.
Yes. One message on Instagram of like, hey man, you're in Austin?
The value has to be there, but how accessible?
When we're talking something about a home, that's a big transition.
Old saying, buyers are liars.
Just random numbers here.
You're the advisor. You haven't advised me or provided me.
How dare you say it's not the right
Right.
time, but when it is the time
Yep.
for that person,
We don't charge for the food or the drink. Everything is free.
as long as I'm doing what I need to do, deals are always happening.
Why is everybody getting sick?
From wine country to cottage country, real estate is all about lifestyle. I'm Andrew Perry, and welcome to That Fine.
Welcome back to another episode of That Fine Life podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Perry. This is the podcast where we interview entrepreneurs, salespeople, coaches, and we figure out what it takes to live that fine life. So today we have a very special guest, Gazzy, Amin.
Yes,
right?
that's it.
Okay,
That's
cool. So because a good friend of mine, Ara, he was on the podcast, and he has a similar last name, and I was trying to they're like, no, it's not Amin, it's Amin.
You got it.
So welcome. We've been
Thank you.
trying to do this now for like a year, right? Almost a year.
year in the
trying to
making.
have you come on the podcast. I think you were sick last time or something.
Yeah, something
Yeah.
came up.
Why is everybody getting sick? It's like it's the last year, after COVID, it's like everybody's sick like all the time. It's like every 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, because it's snowing in April.
That too. You're finally here, right? And we had you come down and speak with our squad probably just before the podcast.
Yeah.
The probably about a year ago, right?
That's right.
And so, I'm gonna have you introduce yourself. But what I think, Gazzy, I think ray of sunshine, positivity, mindset, and thought leadership. But why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Thank you. Well, you've done a great job. I should borrow you to introduce me.
There you go.
I'm Gazzy. Nice to meet you guys. I'm really happy to be on this podcast. I'd love to just have a conversation around sales and what sales looks like in real estate and how we can use these very versatile, really plug into any industry sales concepts and bring it into the real estate space specifically. But outside of this conversation, I'm a sales consultant. I
Okay.
work with entrepreneurs and corporate teams and help them build sales processes and help them have more buying conversations so that they can make more money.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And what is kind of your outlook, like how do you direct people, because it is a little bit different than my business coach who sat there a couple of months ago, who's more of like I call her just the kick in my ass coach, where it's like show up, do it, get the hell out if you're not.
Yep. That's the attitude. And you need that.
You do.
You need that. If you're an entrepreneur, you want to find a coach that's going to push you to that limit and it's going to keep you accountable and say, go do what I told you to do. And so I'm of that mindset. I am that coach for some people. And I also have my own coach who also gives me that hard pressure, because you said, what does it take to build that fine life?
Yeah.
That's part of it, right? That discipline of get shit done energy and entrepreneurship.
Right.
Yeah.
So what would you say to somebody, because I get this literally all the time, is like, what's the point of your coach? I mean, if it's just accountability, I don't really need a coach.
I mean, there's so many coaches, and different industries will have different coaches, and different coaches do it in their own way.
Yeah.
But if I were to think of like, why have a coach can take you further in less time.
That's right.
Right? The coach has already done it, has already seen people do it, has already supported others to get there. And so if I could go to someone and say, hey, can you teach me that in 1 year? It might take me 5 years to do that, but why not pay someone and work with someone who already has the experience, who's already seen the failures, who already knows what the journey is like, and just learn from them and be mentored by them. Yeah, you can do it on your own, but it will take you more time, more sacrifice, more failures. And it's a lot more fun when you have somebody to do it with. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree. Yeah. So it's funny, because what type of conversations do you think realtors have with their clients based on exactly what you just said? Right. So when a buyer, a seller, they don't need to use a realtor. And in the States, it's coming out more and more now with this NAR settlement. Well, I don't need a realtor. I can just go directly to the seller or the listing agent and buy my own house.
Yeah.
But why do you think people don't do that? And realtors will say the list that you just gave to me to their own clients.
Yeah. I mean, what you're explaining, that was my husband when we bought our first home. He was like, I'm pretty sure we don't need a realtor. And right away I was like, no way. Because I just explained, I'm of the mentality of like, if someone knows how to do it, I'm going to pay for their experience.
Right.
And so sure, like you could also do your own taxes. You could also,
Which sucks.
it sucks, right? So it's like, I'm going to pay for someone to do that for me.
Right.
Same thing with the home. And I mean, think of it, the home is probably one of the biggest investments you're making. And so I wouldn't put that just up for test and say, well, I hope I'm going to figure it out. I want to work with someone who's experienced, who's done it before, who I can trust and who I know is on my side and is going to be there every step of the way with me. Because again, it's that big purchase that you're doing. You could do it on your own, but it's going to be a lot easier and a lot more enjoyable. And also you're going to feel secure knowing it's done right if you work with someone like yourself or your team who has the experience and can get it done and has done it before time and again.
Yes, that's right. And so what I like to call that is accelerated growth.
Yes.
Right. And so although I'm not technically a coach, you could call me a coach for my team and for, you know, our brokerage and whatnot. But that's what I say is that, you know, you're not buying, because I used to have the same, you know, thought. It's like, okay, if I hire a coach, like I want all the systems, I'm like, and, you know, I want them provided to me. And okay, coaches do provide systems, but it's like, what does that even mean for you? Like, okay, well, I like a piece of paper that has like, you know, things written down. Okay, great. Well, what are you going to do with that?
Yes.
Well, I got to follow it and then I'll be good. And you're like, no, you still have to learn all of the aspects that are inside of these systems and learn how to do it, you know, effectively. So what I say is that you're not buying results. You're buying time. That's what your money is, right? So if I'm spending $1,000, $2,000 a month on a coach or more, some people pay 20 grand a month. Where it's if you're buying that 5 years back.
Totally.
You're not. That's the best way to think about it in my mind.
Yeah, and I love the mindset that you have when I'm making an investment, whether it be in a coach, a new team member. I'm not thinking what's going out. I'm right away thinking, what am I gaining from this investment? So, for example, if you're flying out to go meet a coach, that's something I'm going to be doing. I'm going to go to Ireland to meet with a coach. I'm flying out to do that. I'm not thinking, what's the money loss? I'm thinking, what am I going to gain from this experience? I'm going to get back time. I'm going to gain proximity. I'm going to gain knowledge. I'm going to meet community. And so right away, I mean, that's how you were able to grow your team. You're not looking at as investments as something leaving. You're right away thinking, okay, this is going out, but what is coming back in? And when you're able to look at the out and in, the investment versus the ROI, it's actually not going to be about money anymore because you get so much more than money. Time. You can't put a price on that, right?
That's right.
And so, yeah, sure, maybe you're paying $2,000 to work with someone who's going to give you the system, but how much money is that system going to make you? How much time are you going to save? That's way greater than that financial number that we're talking about.
Absolutely. Because in life, unfortunately, many people don't think about this enough. They could say it in passing, but you only get one shot at it.
Totally.
And there's no, you know what? Can we just go back and redo this?
Yeah.
Because I just don't think that I took advantage of my time here on Earth. And unfortunately, you don't get to do that. And so you don't want to be 60, 65, 70 still in this hamster wheel style of sales where it's like, where's my next deal? Right? So buying back your time. Now, you said something very interesting, which I was expecting, because you're a very interesting person. Proximity.
Yes.
That word. Why did you say that word?
I mean, if we're talking about proximity, that's how you and I met. We both were at a networking event in connection with one another. So that proximity has landed us here today. And so when we talk about proximity, when you're paying for mentorship or you're paying for experiences that allow you to get into environments or rooms where you're going to meet people that can help you take your business or your life or your connections to that next level, that's what I would pay for. I've paid personally thousands of dollars to fly and meet certain people, as I know you have as well, because being in someone's energy and learning from them directly, that's really valuable. And yeah, there's some things that I'll pay for systems for, but there's even just sometimes that I would just want to see, what are they like in their environment? What do they do? How do they think? And we always know, like, success leaves clues. And so when we pay to be around people who in your book are successful, whatever success looks like to you, you're going to start to pick up these clues of like, oh, they did things this way, or they said things, or they greeted people in a certain way. You're picking up these cues in proximity. That's not something that you can get from an online video. It's not something you can get from a course. It's this contagious energy and seeing people in the environment in that close proximity that's going to give you those ideas or ways of doing things that are just going to bring quantum leaps in your business.
That's right. And so not only from a networking perspective is proximity very important, but if you're only focusing on how much did it cost me, you're not focusing on the right things. What you focus on expands. And if you say, whatever it takes for me to get there, now you're of an opportunity mindset, and you start seeing these things.
Totally.
Hey, how did that person maybe touch your arm when they were talking to you? Right? And you're picking up on all these cues like you mentioned, but it also is the actual networking ability that you get by being in that right room. So that could be from something direct where, hey, I'm in a room with Gazzy, and we're at this very, high-powered event, and I just saw Patrick Bet-David walk by, or Gary Vee. And Patrick Bet-David was the first time I ever heard, because we flew down to Florida. We got to meet his squad, and they said something, Taylor, who's a good friend of mine now from his squad, proximity is power.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so here's something really interesting, which again, you're sometimes just on a one track. Okay, now I'm going to meet Gazzy at this event. Great. Step 1. Step 2, I'm going to meet the people around her. But there's a third aspect, which I didn't really think of until I went to Texas. I had geotagged where I was. Hey, I'm in Texas.
Yes.
I got a message from a good friend of mine who were working together on this awesome tech project coming up. He said, "You're in Austin? One of my really good friends and partners in another company lives there. Amazing. I want you to go meet him." I'm like, dude, my schedule's a little tight. Let's make it happen.
Let's make
it happen.
Yeah.
Turns out he is the CEO of this very high level tech company, but he was also a C-suite employee for one of the biggest companies that has to do with real estate data in the entire world. Fast forward a week later, I'm on a call with his partner. Fast forward a week later, now we're all working together on something very, very big and life-changing.
Yes, and imagine you weren't available for that, or you didn't take that flight to go to Texas to be there. You would have missed out that opportunity. And that's the thing about sometimes networking or connections, you don't know where it can lead. And that's why I'm always saying, like, just go forward, get into as many rooms as you possibly can, meet people, have coffees, reach out to other people. Because you wouldn't have known that would have led to what it has, or what it can even become from here. But what you did was you took that first step, and then the people, resources, and opportunities started to unfold itself. And so that's the key thing of, like, you just never know who's going to be where you are. And so to be open-minded and always looking to collaborate, that's another thing that I know you do an incredible job at in real estate as well, is yes, you work for yourself and it's you and maybe your brokerage or your team. But if you rely on the community that's there, you can actually do better things and you can get greater results through this energy of collaboration. And that's what you were able to do. Meet someone else who maybe could have been, a competitor, and then seen, oh, how can we collaborate and create something from this? That's all about the power of, like, human connections, authentic, genuine connections, and then the energy of collaboration that just leads to something bigger than we could have even imagined from that one message on Instagram of, like, hey man, you're in Austin? Like, look what it's grown into, right?
That's right. And that's another thing that you just mentioned, DMs. You don't know how many people I've seen that will screenshot or talk about, their emails or their notifications. It's like, dude, how do you have 10,000 unread emails? Like, there's got to be something in there that you've missed.
Totally.
Or DMs, when people don't respond in a timely manner on DMs. Yes, I get everybody's busy, but I like to think that almost nobody's busier than me. I'm just joking, but I have a very busy lifestyle, and I answer my phone within one ring.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because even though that DM is from somebody that I maybe don't recognize, or maybe I do recognize, but I don't immediately is like, what kind of value are they going to bring me? You have to look at everything as like, that's somebody I don't recognize. That could be something that is most likely going to bring value to me, and maybe I could bring value to them. You open it. Hey, do you want to, get your ducks clean? Or, hey, I realize that your engagement is low. Do you want to buy followers? But at least you've taken that opportunity where you could easily be like, okay, I've gotten this spam call 1,000 times.
Yep.
And so now you're training your brain in opposite of what the average person does, which is to just ignore all future messages and to really just be receptive and open to every potential opportunity.
I love that about you, by the way, that you're always on top of messages, always replying, showing love, caring. And I think that's one of the things that I personally look for, and I know buyers or people looking to get into real estate teams are looking for, is also the person behind the brand. Yes, you know your job as a realtor, you know how to sell homes. I've seen the homes you sell. They're beautiful. Your team's incredible. But there's also a lot of other realtors who also have cool homes and also have great teams.
That's right.
But there's something about you and the person behind that brand that gets me to be like, if I'm going to buy a house in Costa Rica, I'm going to buy from Andrew.
Yeah.
So there's something about that human connection. And I think that's something that I follow lots of realtors. I think as realtors, there's opportunity for growth there. Is like, yes, show your listing. Yes, create the reel of the house that you're selling. Do all of those things that are going to move the needle in the business. I know your team does power hours, calls, door knocking, all the things. But there's also that part of it is social media, the brand, the personal brand, and the human behind selling the home. The first thing I asked you, like, how are your kids? Because that's what I know you as through what I've seen on social media. And when I'm looking for someone to buy a home from, I'm not just looking at how nice is the house, how many homes have they sold, but who am I connecting with in that personal relationship? Who do I trust? And that's also a big part of it as well. And I think you do an incredible job at that, of like showcasing your life behind just the brokerage and just what the team does and the homes you're selling. And I think that's a very attractive feature that you have that allows you to connect with Andrew Perry and not just the CEO of the Fine Life or the leader behind this team. It's like, it's Andrew Perry. And I think that's like a superpower that you have. Is also something that I prioritize on my social media as well. Is like, we've got business, but people want to do business with someone they like. And so we really want to showcase that personal brand and like showcase who you are, what you like to do, your gym routine, what the kids are like. That adds that human aspect to it. And I always find that translates to more sales anyways.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And you know what? It's just funny because like as you're mentioning all this, it's like you do see those realtors that are busy, but the thing is that sales has changed. Relationships have changed. Real estate is changing all the time. And people they don't really care that you're really that busy selling houses to not answer them. And realtors just don't see it. They think like, oh, I'm just working really, really hard. I'm sorry, I didn't respond to you. Like, I'm working really hard here. It's like, but you really aren't working on the future. Because right now, if buyers are going to naturally stop reaching out to agents just because of, we're going to go back to the states are already talking, not talking, it's, July, I think, is where they're going to stop offering buyer agents commission.
Okay.
Right? So from now to then, it's already happening by people being proactive and by sellers being proactive and like, oh, okay. So we don't have to offer the buyer's agent's commission. Well, if you want to sell your house, I mean, you probably should. However, it's going to be up to the buyer's agent now. If they want to stay in business and actually work with buyers, they're going to have to prove their value. And and I called this I've always been this way when it comes to sales and service. But last year, I went around preaching that the value that you bring isn't service or even like how much value are you offering people on a day-to-day basis. It's how accessible are you. The value has to be there, but how accessible. And so I thought that was, one of my number one attributes is that from an agent standpoint to a buyer, to a seller, to an investor, they can get an answer. If they try 10 realtors, they're going to get an answer from one.
Yep.
And they don't care that one might be, the highest, transacting realtor of all time, let's just say like Rob Golfi or something.
Yeah.
They don't care that it's Rob Golfi. They don't care that it's Ryan Saravelli. They don't care that it's Andrew Perry. It was agent who's done 5 deals, Mark, who happened to answer their call, right? Then you got to back it up with value, of course. But I think it's accessibility because of the internet, because of how easily accessible information is. Just think about realtors. How many? If you reach out to 100 different graphic designers, most likely you're going to work with the person who answered you first.
Yeah. And so why is that? If we're talking about sales always changing, but if we just really bring it down to the basics of what sales is being of service to someone, giving them something that they need, and the person wants to work with someone who cares about them. So you're talking about this word accessibility. If you're not accessible, you don't care. You're too busy. It's like, no, I'm too busy. You're going to hear from my assistant.
Right.
Great. And some teams have that. And even if the assistant's accessible, great. But what does that show? It shows that you care and you care about that person. The buyer or whoever's contacting you to work with you, even if they just have a question, they don't care how busy you are. They want to know, do you care about me and can I trust you? Again, we're talking about homes. This is your future. Maybe you're starting a family. Maybe you're expanding your family. It's a really big transition in your life.
That's right.
And so when we're talking about this big transition, you want to work with someone that can care for you as a human. And so when you're accessible or you answer right away and you're like, how can I help you? They know that you're on their side and that you're there for them. So it's not just about the dollars. It's not just about the transaction. You care about the person. And that's what I talk about in sales consulting. And when we work with our clients, you're trying to create a process where the buyer feels honored, they feel respected, and they feel cared for. So if you're not replying to their DM or you're not returning their email or you're not answering their call, they're not feeling that from you. And in a market where there's other people that they can go to, another realtor, you're going to lose that sale. Doesn't matter how good you are, doesn't matter how much experience you have. If that person doesn't feel like you genuinely care for them, that you have their family and their best interest in mind, they're not going to want to do business with you. I mean, if you're buying shoes, maybe that's a different story. They're going to look for the nicest one, the best deal. And it's a simple purchase. Yeah. But when we're talking something about a home, that's a big transition. You're moving cities. It's the biggest financial transaction. You're dealing with things like mortgage, the bank. There's lots of stress. There's layers to it. What you want is to feel like you've got somebody on your side. And so when I think about my realtor, when I purchased my first property, I looked for somebody who I could trust, somebody who I went to high school with, who I knew. Yeah. They knew my family. We spoke the same language. We had lots of things in common. So that's what I was looking for. Yeah. Someone that was nearby, accessible, would answer the phone every time I called, would take time to come to a meeting with me, to walk me through the paperwork, not just send me a DocuSign. That's what I was looking for. Right. And that's what we're talking about. Accessibility shows that you care.
That's right.
That's the most important thing that I think when I'm thinking about a transaction, care and trust are such big components. And so yes, there's the value, the offer, the proposal, how you've packaged it. Yeah. But those are all the mechanics. If we get down to the spirit of what is a sale, what is a transaction, is I can help you. I know the problem you have. I care about you. I'd like to help you. You can trust me. And so now we're going to be in a business partnership together. That's really what it is simplified.
I agree. That was very well said. That was very well said. Because here's the thing. I've been trying to beat the dead horse here. There is more that goes into servicing somebody that is buying a used car or even a new car. And, regardless if it's a, $5,000, $15,000, $100,000 purchase, You go into the dealership.
Yep.
You're sitting there for like 3 hours. Sometimes it's a little much.
Yeah.
I'll be honest.
Yeah.
That's why I've got a good car guy, Alex Evans, that I just say, hey, this is the one I want. Make it happen. But the point is that you go there.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to get to know you from every aspect, financially, what your needs are, what you're looking for, and you're literally sitting there.
Yeah.
You're going through cars. You're saying, what would your best car look like? What do you come in for? But when realtors have their first interaction, it's like, oh, okay, you've inquired about this house. Yeah, it's $949. It's got 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. When would you like to go see it?
Yeah.
No buyer consult, no understanding of their needs. They're meeting the client for the first time at the property cold. They haven't built rapport, and now they're wondering why they went home and wrote the offer with somebody else, or why they ghosted.
Yeah.
See, I don't believe clients ghost people, right? So off camera before we started, we were having a little bit of a conversation about, how some realtors, they could get down on themselves about, maybe the market's not going their way. However, we have been filled with clients over the last 24 months in the slowest real estate markets because we train our agents on how to actually be a professional, how to be an advisor, and how to walk buyers through that stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, you use the example of a car sale, right? You said they got to know the person first. So when we're talking about the house example, I don't necessarily care about the features of the house. I want you to get to know me and then reassure me that you're going to find the best house for me, whether it's that house, another house, or even if we're not going to buy right now because you can't find me a house that I'm looking for. But because I know that you've got my best interests in mind, I'm going to want to work with you long term.
Right.
And so whether it's that house, whether we wait, whether it's another house, I know that it's about me and it's not about you making the sale.
That's right.
This is where I find sales reps. I've been a sales rep, like I sell myself. So I know when you're focused on closing, when you're focused on your commissions, when you're focused on hitting numbers, you've lost the essence of what service is all about. And people can feel that. So when people feel like, oh, sales reps are salesy, I don't want to be salesy, because they're trying to sell something. But if you're trying to understand my need and then find me something that matches my need, then it loses that sense of sales, right? So when you're going to a car store, sometimes they can feel salesy. I mean, even you walk in somewhere, people have this fear of like, someone's going to come and try and sell me something.
That's right.
Right? Because they know that like sales reps are focused on hitting their targets. But if you look at the sales reps that do really well, or the realtors that do really well, or the teams that do really well, yes, they're focused on their numbers. I know you sent an email about this. What you measure, you improve on. What you don't measure, you can improve on. So I'm all about tracking the numbers. But if we even take it a level deeper, it's like when prospects feel that you're just in it for yourself, that is a repellent. They do not want to do business with you because they know you care more about your income at the end of the month than you do about the person in front of you.
That's right.
That is like, right away, you've lost the sale.
That's right.
So when you're going in talking about the features of the home that you want to sell, and you're not asking like, would you like to live here? Are you looking for an investment property? Would you like to live here? Do you imagine having a family? Now it's not about selling the property. It's about finding what I need and then finding the solution for that. That never feels salesy. People want you to sell to them. I know people are always like, people don't want to be sold to. People want to be sold to. Yeah, if they're going into a store because they need something, they want you to find them what they're looking for. But they want you to do it in a genuine way. And they don't want you to be focused on how much money you're taking home at the end of the month. They want you to focus on their family and what they're looking for. And I find the reps that do that really well are the ones that end up making more money than the ones that are just focused on, oh, what's my GCI this year? Okay, like how many houses have we sold? You're focused on the wrong thing.
That's right.
That's a huge priority in sales.
That's right. And so that process might take a little longer.
Yes.
But if you're doing it consistently, your pipeline's always going to be filled. Now, that one transaction might take longer, but you're going to have so much buy-in from this one client that they're going to tell their friends, they're going to provide a review, and they're going to give you future business. Now, but also you said something cool. You said, okay, so here's the features of the home, but here's the why, and here's your criteria and what it means to you. So in the gym industry, we call that our feature and benefit tour.
Yes.
So I could walk around. So everybody listening to this may or may not have recently bought a house and they don't know that experience, or a car, but maybe you've signed up for a gym membership. And how did that process look? So when this is why it feels salesy, because when somebody walks in for a car or a gym membership, they're just immediately expected that they're going to go on a tour.
Yep.
Right away.
Yep.
And so, so that hey, great to meet you. Why don't we go sit down and really find out why you're here?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and then that kind of, okay, fine, that makes sense, right? You could even say, look, this is a really big gym. I don't want to spend an hour of your time showing you cardio equipment if you're really looking to put on size.
Totally.
Or vice versa. I don't want to spend too much time in the weight room if you're looking to lose weight. Yeah. So you sit down, you find out, okay, so how much weight did you want to lose? Yes. You came in here, you told me that you wanted to lose weight. Okay, well, I want to lose 50 pounds. Okay, well, why that number? What is that? Well, you know what? When I was 17, I fit into a size 32. I don't know what women's sizes are, so I'm speaking from
just random numbers here.
A size 32. I looked great. I felt great. I could walk around with my shirt up. Again, speaking from a guy's point of view. Right? And okay, great. So bring me back to that time. How did that make you feel? Okay, good. So if we could find you something that makes you feel that feeling again, this would be something that you'd be excited about, right? Yeah. Okay, good. So let's go take a look at the gym and what we offer. Yeah. And so a feature tour is like, we've got cardio, we've got 32 cardio machines, we've got this, we've got that, we've got that.
Yes.
We've got, no, Gazzy, you said that you wanted to lose weight. And so here's where I would focus on. Yep. Yeah, we've got personal trainers. Yeah, we've got classes. But based on your goals, this is why I feel this is going to work for you. And it's the same when you're showing a house, and that's why you do the buyer consultation at the beginning. So Kiki, Gazzy, you said you had three bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. The reason why you want all the bedrooms on the same floor is because you've got young kids and they're not old enough to stay in the basement yet. So I know you really love this house, but look, your master's on the main floor. This is what we call a bungalow. This is a 1.5 story. So although I know you like that, why don't you look at something like this that matches your criteria a little bit better?
Yes.
And if you don't do that buyer consultation and you're doing that cold, they start, even though they chose the house, the old saying, buyers are liars. And I don't mean that facetiously. I mean that they sometimes think, wow, you know what? I really want that sports car.
Yeah.
And then you're like, ooh, I've got no room in the back seat for my car seats.
Yeah. But you're helping them understand, like, the key words you're saying is like based on your criteria, based
right.
on your goal. So you're getting to know them. Like, you wouldn't sell me, let's say, $1 million home here if you knew that, most of my business happens elsewhere, or, my goal is to move to Costa Rica. So you're helping me find property there. Why would you try and sell me here if you know that my goal is to move there? So you're kind of customizing it to me. And like, buyers know that feeling, right? They know that feeling of like, either you're being genuine about your approach or you're just focused on selling whatever project you could get your hands on.
And even, sorry to cut you off, even if it's not about, hey, as a buyer, I feel this person's not being authentic with me.
Yeah.
Even forget all that.
Yeah.
Maybe they say, hey, Gazzy's great. Perfect. But this house doesn't work for me. And then you never talk again, right? So it's not about necessarily, do they think you're being salesy or not? I mean, obviously, if they are, that's a big giveaway. But it's more about, okay, you are the professional. You're the advisor. You haven't advised me or provided me additional information to feel comfortable about this. So in my mind, I'm just going to move on because, hey, buying a house isn't for me right now.
Yes.
And then that one realtor picks up, just because they did ask the questions and found them something special.
Yeah, and that's where, like, we realize real estate's a long-term game, right? We talked about maybe it's the house that year, but maybe it's future, and then that turns into referrals, or they don't even buy a house and they give, a referral to someone else or post about you on social just because of the connection they got. So it shows you that it's not also just about the transaction, but it's about that connection that can be longer term beyond that one house. Even if I'm not going to buy a house from you, maybe I'm going to invite you to my podcast. Maybe I'm going to invite you to be a speaker at the next conference that I'm hosting. And so there's all of these like client experience, through the client experience, so many different opportunities can come up. And I think you've done a great team. You've built a great team around that as well, where you guys are really focused on creating a client experience from the get-go, the consult, having the conversations, showing them options, you know, like even the way you host open houses, like you do them, you know, in a luxurious way, because that's on brand with you. So it's all about that client experience that you're also curating, that it's going to attract that right clientele for you, whether it be for the home that they're buying today or for some support that they need from you, from a referral that they're looking for. It's so much bigger than just a one transaction, right?
That's right. And so what do you say to your clients that are struggling with things like, hey, the market's slow?
Well, first off, when I work with realtors, I don't allow them to use that language in our meetings. I was meeting with...
You shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
Yeah, I'm just like, I mean, you said what we focus on grows, right? So if we're going to... They've paid me to come as a consultant. We're sitting around a table of people and we're talking about great ideas. And then the great ideas are bogged down because of this paradigm that it's a bad market. It's not the time for this and that. And I just don't get caught up in that. I think the benefit is I'm not in the real estate industry. So I'm not seeing that content or consuming that media every day saying it's not the right time. It's not the right time. But when teams bring me in and I'm sitting with a group and they use that language, like right away, they know that like my eye is twitching and I'm like, no. Like we don't use that language around here, because that belief will be true if we continue to use that belief. So if it's
what you focus on expands.
It expands. No, buyers, it's not the right time for buyers. I'm like, how can you say, if someone needs a home, how dare you say it's not the right time? Like I bought at a time that wasn't the right time. It worked out for me because I needed a home to live in and I had just gotten married and people were like, oh, I would hold off before buying. And I was like, no, right now is the right time for me. I ended up getting a great deal, got in the market. It was perfect. So when people try and bring those beliefs down, I'm like, listen, if you want to believe that, great. But for clients who have paid me to help them, they know very well not to use that language around me. Because if we decide to believe that, that will be our result. So if we continue to use that narrative, that language, and believe in that paradigm, it's going to be the end of the month when we're looking at our sales numbers and we're going to be like, see, we couldn't sell. Why? Because it was the market. Yeah. And they'll use, again, that circumstance to justify why they couldn't do it. So my belief is there's always a demand. There's always a demand. And listen, even if some people are not buying right now, the relationships are being built right now. The outreach is happening right now. So it is not an excuse to not do the work. It's like, oh, well, in the summer, things are going to change. It's like, so you're just going to like relax till the summer?
Yeah, you're good.
This is the time where you're making the calls. You're building the email base. You're having the conversations. You're hosting the open house so that when it is the time, it's always the right time, but when it is the time for that person, you're the first person that they're calling.
Exactly.
And if you wait till it's the right time, all the realtors are going to start calling when the interest rates drop. They're all going to be like, oh, now's the time to pick up the phone. The people are going to recognize, where were you 5 months ago? You're just calling me now because now you want me to buy. They're not going to want to work with that person. They're going to want to work with the person who's built that relationship from before. So my thought to my clients right now is like, now's the time. This is the time where we build the list, where we have the meetings, where we bring people into the presentation center to have these conversations. And for some people, it's going to be the right time. So don't even bring up that language. And if you realize some people are waiting for that, shift to happen, great. Use this time to build that deep connection so that when it is the time, they're saying, I'm calling Andrew right away. Okay, now's the time. Let's call Andrew. You're the first person that they're going to go to.
That's right. And there's pros and cons to every market, but at the same time, there's always deals happening, right? So I always say there's no good market, there's no bad market, there's great actions and bad actions.
And there's always deals happening.
There's always
deals happening. I mean, think of I'll use a different example. When COVID happened, that's when I started my business. People were like, it's a bad time to start business right now. I had a very comfortable 9 to 5. We had salary. We had benefits. People were like, this is the time. Like layoffs are going to happen. People are not buying. Who's going to pay for coaching? Funds are all these things, these other people giving me all of their fears. And I was like, I'm going to make it the best time to start my business.
That's right.
I'm going to take that and I'm just going to spin it. This is the year. This is the right time for me. And I proved that to be true. Why? Because I always believe there's always deals happening. People always need help. People are always buying homes. There's always, where there's demand, there will always be demand.
That's right.
Right? There's sometimes slow seasons, high seasons. We all have that.
Yeah.
But there's always a right time to do it. And so I'm just always of the belief of like, I'm not bothered by what's going on with that outside volume. I'm focused on, I know what is going to make sales. We talked about this. It's the phone calls, it's the door knocking, it's having many conversations. I'm doing that all year round. Doesn't matter if it's the summer, the market, COVID, this, that. I'm doing my needle movers every day.
Every day.
And so as long as I'm doing what I need to do, deals are always happening. And so it doesn't matter what time of the year. It's March break. It's this and that. I'm like, doesn't matter. It's another day for another deal. Like that's
right.
always my mindset every day.
Right.
And so when people ask me like, what are some of the ways that you're so successful? I'm like, I just always believe that success is inevitable and it's available to me every day. It's just about me being willing and able to do the things that are required to do it. And I'd love to like hear a little bit about you as well. And with your team, like I know that you guys hit targets, you have KPIs, you measure things. That's one of the things I talk about in sales. It's not just about like posting content and hanging out and hoping somebody's going to call you and be like, hey, I'd love to hire you. There's this outreach process. There's prospecting.
Yeah.
There's having those conversations. Yeah. Are you rigorous with your team about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the biggest thing is like, okay, where is 80% of your business coming from? Mm-hmm. And you ask that question and people start to think about it and they're saying like, well, it's not online leads. Okay. Scratch it. It's not door knocking because I'm not very good at it. Okay. Scratch it. Now there's a difference between door knocking for your listings to, help out your sellers. There's a difference of just cold door knocking.
Yep.
So if you actually break down where 80% of your business, most people are going to say database, past clients.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yep.
So how many times a week are you picking up the phone and actually having a conversation with them?
Yep.
And this is literally what I just posted about today in our newsletter. And they're like, well, what do I say? Okay, so break down all your buyers. Go through all of your buyers, your past buyers, and say, hey, there's Bill and Donna. They sold their bungalow. Mm-hmm. They went into a town. They weren't really thinking of the town, but it worked for them at the time. But really what they wanted was another bungalow, but just a little bit more space and a pool, right? So, hey, Bill, I don't know if this property's for you. I know that you love your house in your neighborhood, but remember when we were looking, you said you wanted the bungalow that was a detached and a pool? I know you love your area, but I saw this and I thought of you. Did you want to take a look? No, Andrew, we told you. We love our house. We love our neighbors. This is great. Yeah. This is a beautiful home, but thanks for thinking of me. But no, we're good. We're good. Yeah. Right? That's all it is. Amen.
Thanks
Remember
for
what
thinking of me.
Thanks for thinking of me. So you're just depositing those in that gratitude bank so that by the time they are ready, you can withdraw. Yes. Everybody's happy. Okay, Bill, you've been there for 12 months. I want to, just congratulate you on your home anniversary, but I also wanted to just let you know, hey, based on the recent sales in 12 months, you've made about 5% equity. How does that translate into dollars? Well, congrats. You've made $65,000 in the last 12 months for just living there.
Yep.
How do you feel about that? That's great. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to put it up and cash that out?
Yeah.
No, of course not. We love it here. Okay, perfect. So there's are two examples that you can use right now to call your past clients to try to drum up business. And again, if 90% of the time they're going to say no, but again, you're making those deposits.
Okay, if you're a realtor listening to this, I would run with what Andrew just said. He just gave you 2 tips that you can implement right away. If I was a realtor listening to this, I would do that. We talked about learning from coaches, right?
That's right.
You've done this. So if you have a list from last year, go back to your 2023 buyers, sellers, having these conversations, go back and do exactly what Andrew said.
Right.
I would do that. That's exactly what I would do. It's a brilliant idea. And again, it's a long-term strategy. Yeah. So they weren't ready to buy then. They just bought. Why are they going to buy again? But They thanked you for thinking of them. You were thinking about them. And so
Yeah.
you're building that long-term rapport. And then next time they're at Thanksgiving and someone says, you know what, I'm thinking about this. They're going to be like, oh, you'll love my guy, Andrew.
Yeah.
He's the guy for you. You're going to want to talk to Andrew. So again, it's that long-term strategy that we're using. And it's not just about that one transaction there. And it comes back time and time again. So I want to ask you, because you said, where's 80% of your business, and then how can you like double into that? One of the things I talk about often with sales reps is that what works for one person is not going to work necessarily for the other. I could work with a team. Even in my own team, I sold in a very different way than how my colleagues sold. And so I realized, oh, it's not a one size fits all. Different people do it in different way based on their strengths and weaknesses. One thing you mentioned, like maybe door knocking is not for you. For sure. I'm curious to hear from your perspective. Would you say that there is a one size fits all in real estate? That it's like, it's these few things that everybody has to do? Or would you maybe expand and say, no, you know what? Some people do things differently. Like some people are really good at the social media game. Some people are really good at the email marketing game. And each rep or realtor will do it in their own way. What are your thoughts on that?
So I 100% believe in that. You know, I was speaking in Arlington and we're going around a table talking about our teams and our business. And we asked that same question. Yeah. And there was one person who said, no, 90% of my business is online leads. I said, wow, that's amazing for one. Two, it sounds very tiring because she also had no follow-up game. So it was just that hamster wheel. It was just, you know, I have to work on these leads that are coming in from our lead generation system. Actually, she was using Zillow, which is a little bit more qualified, but like 5 times more expensive, right? And not all of them convert. So what I do believe, yes, I believe that everybody's going to be really good at something and they should focus on that. But I really genuinely believe out of all the different circumstances, all the different strategies, all the different ways people drum up business, you should always have a client service aspect. So for us, it's events. Okay. And so we do events. We have an event basically once a month. Yep. And, you know, sometimes, you know, it's straight to meet new people. Yep. But other times it's to show our gratitude and appreciation for our existing clients.
I love that. Yeah. And so that's unique to you, or would you say that you see a lot of other realtors do
I would say all the best people do that.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. All the best people do that.
Yeah. And I think that's also, that brings that human side to it. Again, you're seeing a realtor online, you're getting their emails, but when you meet someone in person and you give them that hug, or you see them, you know, interact, or you have a good laugh together, it feels different. The memory is different. You remember that impression a lot greater than like, oh, they liked my Instagram story. Yes. So I definitely agree with that. That's something that I've implemented more and more.
Just make sure that you're never charging anybody for entry to these events.
Yeah, we're talking about accessibility, right?
We don't charge for entry. We don't charge for whatever fun we're having that day. And we don't charge for the food or the drink. Everything is free.
Yes. So you're giving.
I've seen realtors do that where they're hire vendors and you're like, okay, yeah. Great, thanks for inviting me to this event. But if I want that hot dog, you invited somebody who has a hot dog truck, and it cost money.
Yeah, I mean, sales is all about giving and taking, right? The more you give, the more you can. I don't want to say take, but that's the law of reciprocity, right? Like you give, you take, like you offer value, you receive value, give value, people buy from you, and so that's part of it. It's like, yeah, it's just food, but it actually goes a long way. You'd be surprised when people feel taken care for, the hospitality, they feel welcome, they feel like, oh my God, you put so much thought into this setup. It actually goes a long way. And people think like a sale is all about, like we talked about the features and the this and that. Sometimes it's just like, hey, they invited me to a good party, they gave me some good sandwiches, and I just know they're my people. Like, that's the people I want to be doing business with. And so sometimes it's really just about like building these real connections that then turn into sales. And so again, if I'm a realtor listening to this, I would find a way to host an event in the next 30 days using what Andrew is saying, either invite people that you think could be leads or past clients that you can show gratitude to. That's right. So that's one thing about my mind. As I'm even listening to podcasts or as I'm learning from people, I'm taking things that I can implement right away, because listening to a podcast for motivation, if you're in a car ride or you're at the gym, motivation's great, but I'm personally not here to be a motivational speaker. I want people to take
right.
action. So as I'm listening to you, I'm like cueing the audience of like, take note of take note of what he's saying and implement this stuff. Cause it's not through motivation that you'll get the results. It's through the actual doing. Yeah. And so I would host an event and I would invite the people. If I was a realtor, that's exactly what I would do.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, we even sold 3 houses in the same neighborhood, and we reserved an ice cream truck and just went around giving ice cream to all the kids, and it was really fun. So okay, we're almost done. Okay, is there anything that you maybe want to sign off with, or maybe leave somebody with that's listening?
Just to wrap up on what you just said here, I think part of being a realtor is giving back to the community and being a community leader. That's how you get known. And so, yeah, like, can we really put an ROI on an ice cream truck in terms of sales? But I think it goes bigger than that. And what I see you as is as a community leader. And so if you're a realtor or even an entrepreneur just in your own space, how can you give back to the community? I always find that the entrepreneurs that I work with, inspirational founders, CEOs, one of the things that allows them to grow at the rate that they do is that they care about the community that they're serving. And it's always about how can I do more of that? So whether it be an ice cream truck, whether it be, hosting a free event, giving value, showing up, becoming a sponsor, going for, that charity walk that's happening in the community, showing up in the community is what's going to allow you to be a community leader. And I think that that's what really makes you different and what allows realtors to just not just be a realtor, but actually be a community leader. And I'm even inspired by that. I'm like, I want to give out ice cream to kids on the street. That sounds so fun.
I know.
Yeah.
We do that all the time. And one last tip for you is that if you are sponsoring, make sure you're not just signing a check and saying thank you to be involved. Make sure you are involved. Say, hey, I got my team, I got my family. I'd love to come and volunteer and help out at the event.
Yeah, and you'd be surprised. Those volunteer opportunities can sometimes grow and blossom into $1 million idea, that next big thing.
That's
and
right.
So I always say, like, be generous with your time, be generous with your skills, be generous with what you have to give, because I'm just of the belief that the more you give, the more you're able to welcome back. So whether it be through sponsorship, showing up in the community, helping a new realtor, helping a family that doesn't know where to start, never be afraid of giving more. I feel like giving more is just one of those things that it's inevitable for you to receive back. And so it's not only something that makes you feel good as a human, but it's also an incredible business strategy as well.
I agree. Well, that's awesome. Thank you for coming on, Gazzy. I really
Thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
me, Andrew.
If somebody wants to reach out, how do they get a hold of you?
I'm accessible on Instagram. I'm like Andrew.
Me too.
You send me a DM and I reply. I reply with the videos. I reply with the voice notes. I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm on Instagram. My name is @AuthenticGazzy. You'll see me there. I post about my cat. I post about sales content and all the good stuff. I hope that you'll connect with me there.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrew. See you soon.
See ya. Okay. That's it, guys. We appreciate you watching. If you're listening on Spotify, don't forget to leave us a review. YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Hit the notification bell, and we'll see you next time.